Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Ray Addison. Headliners is on the way, but first here's the latest from the GB newsroom. So Gavin Williamson has resigned from the cabinet following new allegations about his conduct. In his resignation letter, Sir Gavin said the claims were becoming a distraction to the good work of the government.
Finally decided to take the hit and step down. But the questions now are circulating about Rishi Sunak's judgment. Was the new Prime Minister right to hire the former Chief Whip in the first place? And if not, then can his judgment be 100% trusted? The problem with Rishi Sunak is always that he has been a pretty inexperienced Prime Minister at a very important moment. And can he live up to what's expected of him?
Well, Thangam Debonair is shadow leader of the House of Commons. She says this isn't the first time that Rishi Sunak has shown poor judgment.
We've seen more than one person make allegations about him in the last, I think, 24 hours. They've been serious allegations, and I think it's important that we just focus on the fact that it was Rishi Sunak who, despite the fact that he knew about these allegations, decided to appoint him anyway. Now, as I said, it's a pattern of behaviour because he also appointed Suella Braverman just the previous week, only 6 days after she herself resigned for breaking the ministerial code by her own admission about national security. This is a pattern of behaviour from a weak Prime Minister. It's not what we need in a Prime Minister at a time of national crisis.
Well, in other news, the RMT union says strikes on London's Underground service will now go ahead. It's after last-minute talks failed to resolve a dispute over pay, jobs and conditions. Union officials say Transport for London has refused its offer to suspend strike action in exchange for a pause to job cuts. And in international news, Donald Trump has cast his vote in Florida as Americans across the country headed to the polls in the midterm elections.
We love you! We love you, man!
The former US president left the polling station accompanied by his wife Melania and to the cheers of his supporters. Currently, the Democrats control both the House of Representatives and the Senate. President Biden is warning that a Republican victory could weaken the country's democracy. We're on TV, online and on DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Now it's time for Headliners.
Hello and welcome to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle and I'm going to be taking you through Wednesday's papers tonight in the company of two fantastic comedians, Leo Kearse and Kerry Marks. But first, let's have a look through tomorrow's front pages. We're going to start with the Daily Mail, and they lead with Williamson forced out in cut your throat bully row. That's Gavin Williamson, of course, has been forced to resign, and a photo of one of the stars of the latest series of The Crown. Front of the Telegraph now, Williamson quits over bullying allegations. This is going to be dominating most of the headlines. The Eye leads with Williamson resigns amid bullying and new security risk claims. The front cover of The Guardian has unethical, immoral, Williamson quits over claims he bullied staff. And also on the front of The Guardian there, Zelensky, no climate success if war goes on. We're just going to get the image of The Guardian up now, I think. Just give it one moment. Moving on. There we go. And now we're moving on to the Financial Times, which leads with crypto exchange FTX on the brink as liquidity crisis sparks calls for help. and hunt to scrap investment zone plans at heart of Truss's economic strategy. The Mirror reads, Hancock faces Camp Fury. I don't know what that's quite about. Maybe he's been doing YMCA or something. No, this is a rumble in the jungle. This is more on this awful show where celebrities eat spiders and bats and things. The Daily Express now, they've got your 300,000 voices have been heard. So this is the Express running a campaign to protect the pension triple lock. And we are going to be covering that in just one moment. The front page of The Star now, fears of a clown. They seem to be obsessed with Matt Hancock at the moment. Anyway, those are your front covers. And kicking off the front page of The Guardian now. So, Gavin Williamson is gone. Kerry.
OK, so the headline, you just read it out, but unethical, immoral Williamson quits over claims he bullied staff. Now, Williamson was the Minister of State until he quit, and originally Chief Whip, which I've talked about before on this programme, is just how often it turns out that someone whose job it is to bully people turns out to be a bully. Rather odd, isn't it?
It's kind of the nature of the business, isn't it? I mean, the whips have always been aggressive, otherwise there'd be no point in them in existing.
Oh, totally. It's part of their job to use blackmail and threats and so on. It's a very odd thing that still exists today, and that's in the current climate anyway.
But one of the women, in fact, the woman who came forward with the main accusations, she's a former chief whip as well, and she didn't bully him back. And I thought she'd, fight.
So she should be fired.
Yeah.
She should be fired for failing a test.
Being a bad whip.
She's a bad whip.
Yeah.
It should have been a really competitive moment where... but he was angry with her, apparently, expletive-laden text because he didn't get invited to the Queen's funeral, which I've never been angry at not being invited to a funeral. But he also apparently sent messages to a civil servant telling her to slit her throat and jump out of a window, which is literally overkill because just one of those would have done. I think maybe he was trying to find a funeral to go to.
Yeah.
He seems to love those.
Well, my understanding is that those weren't texts. In that case, that was in front of other civil servants who have since testified to say, yes, he did say that.
OK.
But those phrases, cut your throat, jump out a window, that sounds like a joke to me. Am I wrong about that?
Well, it's definitely not bullying, is it? I mean, I don't want to be on his side here, but if I say to you, do X or I'm going to punch you, that's very different to saying do X or punch yourself.
Yes.
So he's telling them to do it to herself.
It does show why
really...
the male suicide rate is so much higher than women's, because, we have a real belt and braces approach. Like slit your throat and jump out the window.
Yeah,
and probably
really covers it.
Can I ask you, Leo, don't you think, though, I mean, that this is part of a larger trend of people being very kind of timid about robust language in Parliament? There's been all sorts of, you even had in Parliament people saying if you use phrases like the betrayal or traitor or things like that, you're going to incite violence. And here it might just be that this is just the rough and tumble of parliamentary life.
Yeah, and we've seen, parliamentary life is confrontational by its nature. We've got, PMQs, we've got, the people debating across the House. It's designed to be, you're supposed to have people behind you. It's designed to be a bit like schoolyard bullying.
I could argue he's at a different level, though. This is a guy who got photographed with a whip on his desk.
An actual whip.
An actual whip on his desk, which I suppose it was supposed to show that he is the chief whip, but you put the whip under the desk during a photo session, don't you? Everyone knows that. But he also...
Depends what sort of photo session.
Well, I don't know which ones you do, but he had a tarantula which he keeps on his desk in a glass box as well, like some kind of weird Bond... Yeah, like a Bond villain stroking his tarantula whilst looking down at some
like
member of
Indiana
staff.
Jones to me, with whips and tarantulas. I mean, but surely, Leo, I mean, look... Forget all that for now. But think about Gavin Williamson himself, though. Is he up to the job? Because it does seem there's a pattern of behaviour here that he keeps getting forced out. It happened under Theresa May. He was forced out of Boris Johnson's cabinet. Maybe he's just not very good.
Well, yeah, and apparently they're redrawing the boundaries, and one of the boundaries, one of the constituencies that'll go is his.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the government's been so, they want to push him out so much, they've fired him so many times, that finally they're just going to mean that he has no land to sit on.
Do you have any feelings about Gavin Williamson? I don't mean emotional, but do you feel that he's a bad MP, that maybe he's just not very good at this?
It doesn't sound like he's very good at this, is it? I mean, the fact he's been fired twice and now has decided to quit, which I think he just knew what was coming. Really.
Is that what it is? Because he says it's distracting from the important business of governance, right?
Yeah, he would say that, wouldn't he?
So, so it's not to do with the investigation or anything like that.
No, of course not.
He wants to clear his name of any wrongdoing. But I think once you've told someone to slit their throat, that's kind of hard to undo, isn't it?
I think that's going beyond the remit,
Yeah, a little bit.
Is he still an MP, though?
Is he still an MP? It's a good question.
Because we could get a by-election if
Well, if they're redrawing the boundary lines of his constituency, it doesn't look like he will be re-elected anyway.
Right, yeah.
So it's all over for Gavin Williamson.
What happened to the tarantula?
But we should have looked into the tarantula. That's what we're worried about. Anyway, we're going to move on now to the next story. This is the front cover of The Express. They've been running this campaign, Leo. What's it about?
So they say, The Express says, your 300,000 voices have been heard. I think they're overestimating how many people read The Express there. They say, after a relentless Express campaign to protect the triple pension lock, number 10 is listening. So apparently there's a vote on the state pension triple lock. It's not very clear in the article what the vote was actually for, if it was to keep the triple lock or get rid of it, but only one Conservative MP backed keeping the pledge, which makes it sound like they're not keeping the pledge to...
But presumably the Express readers want the triple lock in place to protect their pensions, right?
Yeah, because I think they're mostly not between the ages of 18 and 24. They're the sort of more marinated in life age of the side of the spectrum.
Well, you should be setting up your pension from an early age, Leo. If you're responsible, yeah.
I think actually today, I get under IR35 rules, I get a pension from GBNews.
Do you indeed?
So yeah, I'm finally at the age of, let's say, 29.
Is it triple locked though?
Is it triple lock?
Have you checked?
This is the thing. I mean, if not, I'll be writing to the Express to make sure. But yeah, only one Tory MP backed the motion. So I assume it was a motion to scrap the triple lock. But the triple lock, I mean, it's not designed for these times. So the triple lock keeps the state pension, makes sure it rises in line of whatever's highest of 2.5% or wages or inflation. And, that's fine when we're not in a period of high inflation, but we are now. So now that promise we made is a terrible promise.
Should we not be protecting the elderly? I mean, are pensions not really important? I mean, it's certainly not a vote winner, is it, to deplete people's pensions?
I wouldn't have thought so, no. But I don't know enough about pensions and triple. I didn't even know there was a double lock, let alone where we've gone to a triple lock or how this comes about. I'm kind of interested in this guy, Christopher Chop, who was the only one who voted for the motion. And I'm wondering whether he was sitting in front of everyone and didn't know. I mean, it's a really lonely place. Now, even if I don't agree with him, he's got the courage of his convictions.
Isn't he quite
he's
contrarian? I think he's supposed to be quite contrarian.
Oh, is he?
And probably quite young as well.
He's probably really young.
What about
far away?
You've said on this programme before, Leo, that you don't think we should be helping the elderly out in a cost of living crisis.
Well, I think we should. There's some elderly people that do deserve to be helped out, but the last 20 years have seen an immense concentration of wealth in older people. All the money that's been printed is flown into fixed assets, which tend to be houses, and older people tend to own their houses. So at the moment we've got workers who tend to be younger, obviously, sort of bearing the tax burden through income taxes, when it should really be through some sort of, I don't know, it'd be nice to see it just balanced over towards people who've accumulated all that wealth, sometimes not through doing anything other than buying a house in 1972.
Are you going to be changing that view in about 10, 20 years when I reach that point? Or it's just for now?
I admire your optimism that you're going to get that old.
So there we have it.
You know a lot about my lifestyle.
Leo Kearse hates old people, you heard it first. Wednesday's Guardian, ID cards. Are they the answer to irregular immigration?
The story says Labour revives ID cards idea to reduce irregular immigration. Yes, and the Shadow Immigration Minister, Stephen Kinnock, has been talking about this. I don't think this is actually any policy at the moment. This is just under discussion, isn't it? So, and I don't really... I kind of feel that at some point we're all going to have ID cards anyway. I can't imagine a future where we're not going to have chips in our arms, and this is coming.
But it's very dystopian. But this is, I mean, that idea... That,
it does feel that way, yeah.
They tried to introduce the ID cards. Remember, it was back in 2006, I think. It was a while ago. And everyone, including sort of groups like Liberty, really went to town on this, saying, this is the first step towards this kind of dystopian nightmare vision.
But is this just for immigration, or is this just for or is this the whole country?
No, but this would be for everything, wouldn't it? They're saying that they'll be able to monitor illegal immigrants more readily if we implement this kind of system. But look, Leo, am I the only one who's a little bit worried about this? I've read the Book of Revelation. I know people get branded on the forehead and all the rest of it. I know what's going to happen, right?
Right. Well, the thing is, I mean, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, whenever it was touted and rejected, we weren't all being constantly surveilled electronically. Yeah. Anyway, now, you're basically, we've got digital ID cards anyway. You're being tracked all the time.
Is that why the left have given up on this?
Through your mobile phone. Well, yeah, and I think the left, I'm surprised to see the left sort of behind this, and particularly when it's, immigration is being used as the sort of excuse to bring it through.
Yeah.
But I've noticed Starmer is stealing a lot of, we've had 12 years of the Tories stealing all Labour's ideas to be more electable. Now Starmer's doing the same thing, and he's bringing through rhetoric that's quite hard on immigration.
Well, there's not much between the two parties, really, if we look at it. Do you think they meet in secret and just sort of exchange ideas? Why don't you do the windfall tax
deal
this
them
week?
out.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'm not sure they are for it, though, because Yvette Cooper's been speaking against it and saying that we really need a proper employment enforcement rather than ID cards, so which would be covering that issue.
Don't you think, Kerry, though, it's a bit like a papers, please society, and the left traditionally has always been very anti this idea of government surveillance and people just knowing everywhere you go and everything you do? I
don't think so. I think it's been under Blair. There was loads and loads of databases.
Yeah.
So there's the fingerprint database, which turned out people weren't, they hadn't even been convicted of a crime, but they went on the databases. There was a massive, and I remember talking about it at the time, and we were constantly hearing that phrase, if you've got nothing to fear, you've got nothing to hide, which I think is in itself one of the most terrifying phrases. That's totally dystopian, and I've got loads to hide. I've had an interesting life. I don't want everyone knowing about it.
All these schemes and all these laws that get brought through, they always get misused unless they're really specifically and carefully worded. Like the Regulation of Investigatory Powers Act that came through, that was designed to catch sort of online predators and people like that, and mafia, organised crime. And within a few months, it was being used to catch fly tippers and noisy neighbours.
Well, this is the point. It's the thin end of the wedge. And if you start with this ID system, it's not just going to stop at immigration.
Yeah.
But even if it did, I mean, isn't it the case that they might be able to falsify this or get around this? These are people who have, after all, been involved with these traffickers to get over here. They've already broken the law to a degree.
And also, if somebody's thrown away all their identification in the English Channel, how are you going to issue them with an ID card? Some 28 guy who says he's 14?
I just don't know if this is the solution.
I think it's right to resist it, but I'm telling you, this is going to happen. There's
you're
no way. We're moving that way so fast. All your information's everywhere now. It is going to happen. And the abuse of it that you're warning of, that's going to happen as well. It just is all going to happen. It's going to be hard to keep up with.
OK, well, Kerry Mark's in an Orwellian mood tonight, but we're going to move on to Wednesday's Mail. The midterms, Leo, what's going on there?
Yes, a record number of Americans are expected to vote at the polls today, casting their ballots in a knife-edge election day as Democrats are poised to lose Congress. After a 40-year high of 44 million people voted early in the polls. So the Republicans, apparently their confidence is palpable. One aide told the Daily Mail that anything less than a 30 to 40 seat pickup or increase in their hold would be a bad night. That would of course give them control of Congress. And Biden himself conceded it'll be tougher for Democrats to keep their slim majority in the House. His job approval numbers have been around pretty much the lowest of any president ever.
Is it the case? I mean, it looks as isn't this going to rest on whether the Republicans win the majority in the Senate? Because it looks like that's where the knife edge really is. They're going to make big gains in the House of Representatives. The Senate is very, very slim majority if they will win, but probably will win. Yeah,
it's down to the Senate more than the House at this point, I think, really. And it's American politics is very strange, isn't it? Because to get policy to work, you need the president's politics to line up with the House and with the Senate, and then everything has a through line. And if not, you get this loggerhead where you remember Obama's second term where he just couldn't get anything through, and spent his whole term just trying to force through the Health Act, which ended up with so many amendments, things like, yes, you can have the Health Act, but babies can carry guns and stuff like that. So that became the norm, everything possible to thwart it.
Is it possible to get anything done?
We will see happen.
Like if you watch The West Wing, you'll see this happen all the time.
Sure.
If they don't have control, it's not going to work. But will they achieve this victory? I'm just thinking the polls have often got it very wrong in America. Didn't they say that Hillary Clinton had a 99% chance of winning the election?
But polls everywhere tend to get it wrong in favour of Democrats. They say Democrats will do better because everybody wants to say, oh yeah, I'm voting Democrat. It's like on social media. If you look at social media, you think Jeremy Corbyn was going to walk the election.
That's right.
And of course he was absolutely trounced.
So what you're saying is it's going to be even more of a red wave.
Yeah, it could possibly be, but we don't know because I mean there's different demographics are responding to different worries.
I don't know though.
Overall, the economy, inflation, and crime is going to help Republicans. I mean, I say Republicans' concerns about that are going to help Republicans. But on the other hand, a lot of women are worried about women's rights and the sort of de facto ban on abortion in some states.
Yeah, so there's that. But there is also, like you said, the crime is a serious issue. And people have noted a correlation between those states that have defunded the police and a rising crime.
Who'd have thought?
I can't can't believe that happened. I mean, that sounds like the stuff of fantasy, right?
There's a lot of turmoil in America. We could see it go any way right now. But I think if the Republicans do get the House and the Senate, we're going to see Biden's all of his policies unravel like one of his sentences.
And what do we think? Is Trump coming back? I mean, he says he's going to make an announcement on November the 15th. He said the date.
Yeah.
He's going to announce it from Mar-a-Lago. Is the announcement going to be what we think it is?
He's definitely going to run. He's basically said he's
I mean, it might be like he's just getting Botox or something.
He might be waiting for this election, though, result to decide what to do.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But he's already said, he's pretty much said he's going to run. But that means Biden is going to run as well. And Biden turns 80, I think. Is it today? It's very soon.
Biden and Trump aren't massively different in age terms.
Yeah, but one of them's still alive.
Yeah, which is an advantage. Or maybe it's not. Who knows? Ending this section now with Wednesday's Express. A daunting thought regarding China, Kerry.
Preparing for war will now be China's focus, Xi Jinping says. Is it Xi Jinping? Is that correct?
Is it Xi?
Xi Jinping? Xi.
I think it's Xi.
Xi.
Like the fancy pronoun.
Xi Jinping.
Yes.
Oh, well, I look like a right idiot now, don't I? With my Xi.
Just look a bit xenophobic, that's all.
That's all, that's fine. Xi Jinping. I just checked before the programme, really, but I didn't. Citing unstable security. You know, he's saying we're heading toward because of unstable security, which is the excuse we see now. That's the same with Russia and Ukraine, isn't it? We have to go to war because otherwise we're in danger. He said the nation's security was becoming increasingly unstable and uncertain. His comments came amid heightened fears in the West that China is planning a long-anticipated assault on Taiwan, the breakaway state it counts as part of its territory. I can't even say territory now, just as China counts everything as part of its territory and has been steadily expanding for a very long time now.
But it has been saying for a while now Taiwan is going to be the next target. I think the Chinese government has said it quite explicitly. They want it back in Chinese hands by 2024 or 2025, something along those lines. So that is a very real threat. Probably didn't help with Pelosi going over there and sort of hanging out.
Well, I think that does help because it shows that the West, takes Taiwanese independence seriously. So, and the West has been going over there. I think a British diplomat or MP was over there just this week, and China always rattles a saber and says, "Oh, this is terrible." There's actually a Russian saying called a Chinese final warning because they make so many final warnings that it means a saying, a final warning that carries no weight.
But Leo, if China does choose to initiate incursions into Taiwan, what can the West actually do about it on a practical level?
Look what we did with Ukraine. We totally helped Taiwan out, and then we totally just decimate. We help, Ukraine or Taiwan or whoever's being invaded, just decimate. In fact, decimate's the wrong word because that means just take away 10%.
It does.
It's more
it doesn't anymore.
90%.
90%.
It doesn't mean that anymore. It's moved on.
It has evolved. I mean, Kerry, what do you think? Do you think that
we've been showing muscle for America and China have been showing muscle for a while in the South China Sea. They send ships down there,
they do.
Eyeing each other all the time. I think I'm correct to say that China has carried out a 6-day military drill around Taiwanese territory with ballistic missiles going into Taiwanese waters recently. What's also a problem is that whilst America's got bases out there for a long time, because it's closer, Taiwan has been doing all its trade with China. So they've kind of got their fingers on Taiwan already. And it's been threatened for a long time. And if it happens, it's going to be they're going to have far more strength than Russia has because they'll be more organised. They're definitely going to have better weaponry and also they've been keeping their people in lockdown and they're going to come out angry.
Yeah, but Taiwan's surrounded by sea, so it's a much harder place to attack. Like Ukraine, you just drive the tanks straight across some fields.
Sure, but then if we join in, we've got to send weapons all the way over there, whereas they're going to be a lot closer and more equipped. But
the West will definitely step in to protect Taiwan because of its chip-making industry. It's like more vital to the West than oil, really.
Well, let's just hope it doesn't happen, right? That's just my thoughts. Give peace a chance. Anyway, that's it for part 1. Join us in part 2 for tacky and tasteless SNP MPs, homophobic mermaids, and a good old British strike. See you in 3 minutes.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something weird happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak.
Stop talking. My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Arlene Foster, for The Briefing on GB News. Every Friday at 3 p.m, I'll give you all the latest political news and analysis, and we'll have robust live debate. To make sure that you're caught up on all of the biggest issues of the day, we'll bring on experts in their field. I'll ask the questions that you'd like to ask. We're not afraid to tackle discussions from all perspectives, including yours. Don't forget, The Briefing with me, Arlene Foster, every Friday at 3 p.m. on GB News.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere.
Amazing! You see, amazing!
You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel.
Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful.
Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and with me are the brilliant comedians Leo Kearse and Kerry Mark. So let's crack on with Wednesday's stories. Back with Wednesday's Telegraph now. Leo, fancy a bash at the SNP?
Yeah, why not? So, I mean, they keep giving us reasons to do it. So, Scottish nationalist MSP, member of the Scottish Parliament, has been criticised for politicising a remembrance commemorations after she wore a pro-independence peace poppy at Holyrood. So Michelle Thompson, she's a SNP backbencher, she attended a hearing at Holyrood wearing a white poppy, which is already kind of dodgy.
What does the white poppy mean exactly?
It's supposed to mean peace, but really it means I don't respect the troops. I want it to represent all troops, other countries' troops, and
yeah, not just the British Armed Forces, all over the world,
basically. Armed Forces,
okay.
You know, I mean, so I've only ever seen it worn by people like, you know, Jeremy Corbyn, for example, who hates the West. So it's an example of somebody who absolutely despises the West and its armed forces. And they say it's for peace, but you can't have peace without a strong military. You know, as Ukraine's showing, you know, if Ukraine didn't have a strong military, Russia would have just walked in there and made them all slaves. So it's ridiculous. But she didn't just have a white poppy. This is just disgusting. She also had the official logo of the Yes campaign, the Scottish Independence campaign, over the white poppy.
What, attached to the poppy, like an extension of the logo?
Yes, so she's tagging on the SNP's, you know, pro-independence campaign onto something that's supposed to be remembering, you know, troops who died, preserving, you know, fighting for our rights and protecting the United Kingdom.
You would have been more annoyed if it had been on the red poppy, though. You'd have attached the SNP.
Yeah, I'd still be annoyed.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, it does seem inappropriate, doesn't it, Kerry, to sort of co-opt a charity like that and then add a political campaign to it.
She did claim it was an accident.
That she just put the two lapels.
The pin holding the poppy broke, and all she could find in the moment, she probably didn't even read it, was the yes pin that she put in. Which is,
that's legitimate, right?
Look, I went to...
The excuse sounded like, when somebody goes into A&E with an avocado up their bottom, and they're like, well, what was happening? I was changing a light bulb on the stepladder, and I came off, and I was wearing a kimono and hit the fruit bowl on the way down.
Yeah, that can happen.
And you've never done that. Easy. Look, I went to a funeral once and my black tie broke, and so instead I carried a Brexit banner.
There we go, exactly.
It's easily done. And you know what I think is quite interesting, though, is just that this has caused so much outrage, because considering that everything now from sport to, science and so on is all becoming politicised, and everyone's putting their views and their ideology into everything, it's nice that there's still an area where people go, not there.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite interesting.
OK, that is a good point. On to The Guardian now. The UK taking a back seat to tackle modern slavery. What's this, Kerry?
The UK is rolling back efforts to tackle modern slavery, which I'm going to put down my opinion on this straight away, is that I'm against it. And I'll read this here. Anti-slavery.
So.
I am, strongly. I think slavery bad.
Cheap trainers.
Cheap trainers.
Do you want to pay more for your trainers?
I just don't
Do you
like...
want stitching to not be as intricate because they've got those big adult fingers?
That's when it's going on in other countries. We're talking about our country now. I don't want to see people with identity cards with slave on it. I think it's going to be embarrassing for the UK.
What about iPhones and things? Don't they come from sort of exploited workers and things like that?
We're exploiting people all over the place all the time, yes, totally.
Exactly. Didn't Prince used to have slave written on his face because he couldn't get out his deal with Sony?
He probably didn't qualify as a victim of modern slavery under these...
I just want to clarify what we're talking about here.
Yes, there's a lot of people who seem to go for the hyperbole with slavery, with Holocaust, with anything they can.
Exactly.
Like, oh, my God.
So this is what's happening here with the UK. Well, are we not doing enough? Because modern slavery is a huge problem across the globe.
Yeah. We passed the Slavery Act, the Modern Slavery Act, in 2017, and apparently, according to Universal Periodic Review, we were an exemplar at the time, but 5 years later, with the next review imminent, it has regressed. So we've got thousands of slaves apparently in the UK, or people who count as slaves.
But why are they conflating this with the issue of immigration? Can you sort of clarify what's going on here?
Well, so this organisation, Anti-Slavery International, they say there's a lot of rhetoric around migrants crossing the channel to abuse the asylum system, people are saying, people on the right, or people on the left as well, are saying that people are abusing the asylum system to come in as migrants and come in, and a lot of them are trafficked as slaves, for prostitution for the Albanian gangs and stuff like that. But really, it's just a fact that the asylum system is being gamed. You can, in so many ways, you don't just say you're a victim of modern slavery. You can also throw away your ID. You can claim that you're underage. You can say you've converted to Christianity, so you can't be sent back. The guy who tried to blow up the maternity hospital in Liverpool said he'd converted to Christianity, so he couldn't be sent back.
It's not
but he
always...
obviously hadn't. He was still pretty...
No, sure. It's not... Of course, it can be gamed by bad actors, but it's not always malevolent, is it? I mean, some people are just desperate to get to safety. Yeah. So they will lie. And that makes sense to me.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're coming all the way across all these safe countries. So it's not just about being desperate to get to safety. It's desperate to get to a country that's seen as maybe economically stronger with more opportunity.
So then what is this UN review suggesting that the UK government do?
They want to stop it. The UK government has started classifying it as illegal immigration and asylum issue rather than as a slavery issue. So I think they want to keep it as an issue that specifically uses the word.
OK, makes sense, fair enough. Wednesday's Daily Mail now. Turns out maths is problematic in more ways than one.
Yeah, so the Quality Assurance Agency, which is an independent charity that checks on standards in the university sector, has been accused by top academics of engaging in tokenistic anti-racism efforts. So basically the QAA, they published proposed guidance which states that the curriculum should present a multicultural and decolonised view of mathematics. I mean, I don't know how mathematics can be racist.
It's amazing.
It's numbers. It's literally what you get. I mean, I guess the number 4 looks like it's goose stepping. That's problematic. 88, that's 2 fat ladies. That's definitely getting banned.
They want to decolonise mathematics in the way that they do with literature, where you basically remove books by old white men.
Yeah, so there's certain numbers or sums, I guess. So there's British statistics pioneer Carl Pearson, who founded the first statistics department at UCL in 1911, but also believed in the existence of inferior races, which probably wasn't an uncommon attitude in 1911.
He was born in 1857. So that might be why.
And Sir Isaac Newton was a shareholder in the South Sea Company that traded in slaves. But I mean, there weren't that many.
So therefore, gravity must be wrong.
Well, no.
Right? If he was involved with slavery, we can't say the apple falls off the tree anymore.
They have said this. They've said that the laws of motion need to be problematised.
Well,
because of his support of slavery.
I agree with them.
In 1640 something.
I'm totally with them.
For goodness sake.
Imperialism happened on a round Earth, so therefore it must be flat. This all makes sense. And we should get rid of the imperial system of units.
Yes, of course.
That's imperialist.
But look, it's surely going too far, Leo. I mean, the idea of...
How can you say that?
The idea of... Look, we always thought that the decolonisation thing and all of this kind of stuff would be restricted to the humanities.
To actual colonisation.
We're talking about poets and all the rest of it, and airy-fairy abstract stuff, which I specialise in, right? But numbers and science... surely they're immune.
I mean, because mathematics is the sort of purest form of communication and understanding the universe.
Yes.
You can't into...
It cuts through everything, all disciplines and so on. And what's going on is that there is an ideology that is colonising the disciplines.
Right.
And saying you must do things our way. That is exactly what they're supposed to be against.
But it's literally like this sort of Orwellian, 2 + 2 = 5 or whatever.
Well, that is a thing, isn't it? That has been all over the internet, that people are now saying it does. 2 + 2 does equal 5.
Actual mathematicians in actual universities are saying 2 + 2 maybe does equal 5. There are different ways of knowing, everyone. That's what they're saying. I mean, this is we've just got to drive it out at this point, haven't we? This isn't serious stuff.
Yeah, I just think I want to see what happens with it.
Yes, I feel like it should be funnier.
You know what will happen,
because it's so serious.
Planes will start falling out of the sky because the engineers don't know how to add.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
They'll go, at least it wasn't a colonised plane.
Exactly. Silver linings. Anyway, we're going to move on now to the next story. This is Wednesday's Times. And, of course, it wouldn't be Britain without another strike.
Yeah, so this time it's the academics. Academics have promised to stage the biggest ever university strikes this month, with millions of students set to face disruption. Oh, no, who will indoctrinate the children? This is appalling. Who's going to spread terrible ideas about mathematics being racist?
I know that the student union, the NUS, are supporting the strikes.
Yeah, of course, they're going to support anything that's a terrible idea. So, they've got a new president now, so they've probably toned down the anti-Semitism, but they're still keeping the decolonisation there. So the strikes are going to take place on November the 24th, 25th and 30th, and nobody will notice a thing different. Nobody, like the academics, academics work hard. Come on, they barely work. If there's anything that's a scam, it's...
I mean, I have to say, 3 days off, I don't think any students will notice that.
It's so unambitious, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And even the nerve to call it the biggest ever... It might be the biggest ever university strike, but that's still pathetic.
Yeah,
everyone's been off for 18 months from COVID anyway, and now you're going to do 3 days. And there's strikes going on with trains every other week. So,
so you're going to miss like a 45-minute Zoom call in the afternoon. That's what this is going to be.
It's not quite the same, is it, than when tube drivers strike and no one can get anywhere? What does this mean? Someone can't read Milton?
It basically means everyone should be replaced with a robot.
Including academics.
Actually,
I would say you're being a Philistine, but now, these days, I sort of agree with you.
Yeah.
Because they're basically robots anyway, just the wrong kind. Anyway, we're going to move on now to Wednesday's Daily Mail. Are drag queens grooming children? Carey, what's this?
OK, a play school drag queen row erupts. I'm going to read this here. Fiery moment. Liberal senator accuses the ABC of grooming children on G-rated show. I don't know what that means.
This is Australian.
It's an Australian
It's
TV
Australia,
channel.
prompting Green Senator Sarah Hanson-Young to lose it at offensive comments. So this is the Liberal senator who's making the complaint is Alex Antic, which is quite amusing for someone with an attention-getting caper surname.
Yes, it is.
Who's against an attention-getting caper.
It's quite a Dickensian name, that. Alex Antic. So he's saying that basically this ABC managing director, they put on this show, drag queen, and I know that you've got an issue, Leo, you've mentioned a number of times, drag queens reading stories to children.
Yeah.
You have a problem with that.
Well, it's a sexualised form. It's, you're used to seeing it at 11 p.m. in a bar in Soho, and it's fantastic. It's very sort of bawdy and sexualised, and a sort of over-exaggeration of what female sexuality is, and it's hilarious. But it is sort of designed for that sort of environment, not for children's
But this is just a drag queen reading a book on a children's TV show.
Yeah, why is it a drag queen? You know what I mean? Why not? I mean, if it was a stripper, if it was, you know, some sort of, somebody from a regular strip club coming down, reading a story while spinning around the pole and stuff, everybody would be in uproar. But for some reason, because it's on the, you know, the plus side of the LGBTQIA++.
No, look, I don't disagree insofar as drag queen, the best drag acts are inherently sexualised anyway, and that's where the tradition comes from. I don't think that for a second the drag queen on this TV show was sort of pouting and sort of twerking and all the rest of it. Probably was just reading the story. But even so, Kerry, why would a drag queen want to sanitise their act in this way? That's not drag, really, is it? That's just someone in a dress reading.
Why would they want to do it?
Why would they want to sanitise it? But the whole art form.
I think they get paid for it, and it's a gig.
They get a lot of money. I see.
And the same with the library gigs. I mean, around the drags who are doing it, it's like this is a gig, so it's an afternoon gig, decently paid, and so that's fine. But you know, I didn't really have much of an opinion on this thing. And then someone said, look, I'll put it like this: it's no different to the kids than seeing a clown. And then I thought, oh my God, that's terrible. Clowns,
I mean, clowns are terrifying.
Awful.
Clowns are really scary.
A child like that,
and you know, so that's an argument. And what do you think, Leo? You know, Widow Twankey is a cross-dressing character that children adore.
Yeah, people have said this about defend drag queen story hour and stuff, and you know, the naked family sex show and all the rest of it, by saying, oh, we've got this tradition of pantomime. It's like, yeah, but that's a tradition. We've been doing it for ages, so that's all right. Also, with pantomime, they're miles away on a stage, so you know they can't. You know, not that I'm saying they ever do, but they can't actually touch the kids.
But I would say though, we did go through a phase. I think 80s, 90s of Page 3 models being on TV an awful lot during children's TV,
I missed those
reading
days.
Stories and other stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you did.
What Page 3 models reading stories?
Yeah, there was. Well, I don't know whether they particularly read stories, but being on children's TV...
I mean, they weren't topless.
They became very acceptable for a while.
Samantha Fox had a big
well, the drag queens aren't topless either.
Yeah. No, exactly. But that's my point, isn't it? I'm agreeing with you.
Right.
Like,
It wasn't for kids.
No, but like Sam Fox had a career that was predicated on sexuality.
Yeah, not for kids.
No, but she also moonlighted as a pop star and a stripper, right?
Yeah, none of it was for kids.
Oh, anyway, look, we're not getting nowhere with this. Ending this section now. That's part 2, all over and done with. But after the break, we've got Duchess Difficult offering life advice to women, a rather intense virtual reality, and an extreme makeovers for one sex-deprived man. Not Leo Kearse. See you in 3.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by 2 of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. There's never been a more interesting but also critical time in British politics, and I can't wait to bring you the biggest stories of the day with the best factual accuracy and also a few of my own opinions thrown in. We'll engage in passionate but always polite debate with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12 on TV, on radio and online.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
On the Mark Stein Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Stein Show.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
To each and every one of you.
For helping our great nation
Find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
On radio and online.
We're proud to be
The People's Channel, Britain's
News channel.
Welcome back to the final part of Headliners. I'm still Andrew Doyle, and they're still Leo Kearse and Kerry Mark. So let's crack on, ending this section with Wednesday's Telegraph and Mermaids being accused of homophobia, not the marine mythical creatures.
No, this is a children's trans charity, which, those aren't two words that should really go together, I think. I think transition is for when you've, got a bit more of understanding of yourself and life. But anyway, so Mermaids trans charity has taken the LGB Alliance, which is a sort of
gay rights group.
Gay rights group, but a purist one that just focuses on the actual same-sex attraction.
Which used to be what gay meant.
Which is what sort of what it was, yeah. Before it became LGBTQIA plus
PP2SAA, etc.
A lot of letters. They need to decolonize that.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so this tribunal's ongoing, and it's not going too well for Mermaids. They kicked it all off, but it's sort of backfired on them. So now the tribunal has heard that the Mermaids' attempt to shut down the LGB Alliance, the gay charity, is profoundly homophobic. So they're asking for judges to strip the LGB Alliance of its charitable status, saying it's a front for transphobia. But during the hearing, Mermaids themselves suggested that words like sexual orientation, sex-based rights, and lesbian, gay, and bisexual were used to signal position against trans rights rather than having the inherent meaning, which they obviously do.
But that's because gender identity ideology is predicated on this idea that lesbian, gay, bisexual, that all of these things are essentialist and therefore are dog whistles for transphobia because they're rooted in biological sex.
Yes,
right?
Some people say, "Oh, I'm gay. That means I want to have sex with a biological male man, rather not a male man, not a postman, but somebody who's biologically
nothing wrong with that.
Somebody who's biologically female but identifies as a man. So Mermaids say that's transphobic. You should have, or if you're a woman, a lesbian, you should have sex with women with penises and stuff. And obviously, not all people are comfortable.
How did we get this far, though? I mean, Kerry, look, my problem with this very much so is, I've met the people involved with LGB Alliance. It's run by two very, very nice lesbians who have been at the forefront of gay activism for many decades. One of them was part of the Gay Liberation Front, the other part of Stonewall. These are not bigots. These are not transphobes. And Mermaids has just decided that they are. There's no evidence, by the way, but they just say that they are, and everything's a dog whistle, or everything's
extraordinary.
A front.
I think this is it's just not happened before. We've had two charities fighting it out in this way in a court case.
Like robot wars.
Yeah, totally. and also you'd think that. So it's just based on some new ideas that surely people should be discussing rather than getting this angry about and everyone seeing harm in every single direction.
But it's interesting because Mermaids were the ones that took the case against LGB Alliance to have them stripped of their charity status.
It's come back on them.
But now it's come back on them because now we've suddenly discovered that Mermaids have been sending dangerous breast binders to underage girls without their parents' consent.
Absolutely.
They've had one of their trustees was writing articles that seemed to imply that he was an apologist for paedophilic desire. So, Mermaids kind of brought this on themselves, didn't they? they?
Yeah, absolutely. And their whole sort of core message is that, homosexuality... They're basically denying the existence of homosexuality because they say it should just be attraction between genders, and gender is separate to biological sex. Whereas the LGB Alliance, say you can't change your biological sex, which is also the attitude of scientists.
Those transphobes.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the thing. Like, gay men aren't attracted to people who identify as men; they're attracted to men.
It's not
That's the reality.
Yeah, it's not called homogenderality. It's homosexuality.
But it's difficult to say, so it's probably a bad idea. Any final thoughts on that, Kerry?
No, just I think the ideas aren't really as big a problem as the intimidation that's going with these ideas and these ideals. And it's also that it should be experimenting with what we are, and identity should be more fun. Do you know what I mean? And it's where it's going right now. I think the idea originally was to break down all the constructions, and we've ended up with so many more constructions that people in the future will complain about. There's about 100 genders now, and there's people who are cat gender and cake gender, which I'm not going to make fun of. There's no way I'm ever going to make fun of someone who thinks they're a cake.
No.
That's just not nice, is it?
No.
But I think
you should eat them. You should lick off their icing.
You get angry with the doctor who assigned them as a boy rather than a cake, because a professional should be able to recognise a cake.
It is. I agree, Kerry. It is very confusing because gender is clearly a massive social construct and completely fluid. But you also have to have surgery to get yourself fixed if you've got a different gender identity. Anyway, we're going to move on now to the next story, and this is Wednesday's Sun. Duchess difficult doesn't like her nickname.
Well, this is a better identity story because this is someone who we know what she is. Meghan Markle appears to hit back at Duchess difficult label she's been getting and says not everyone is going to like you, by which she means, when she says you, she means herself. I'll read this bit. So at the beginning of the podcast, Meghan said what these people are implying when they use that very charged word is that this woman, she's difficult, which is really just a euphemism, or is probably not even a euphemism. She's covering all bases there in case she finds out later on what euphemism means. It's really a code word, she says, for the B word.
Yes. She's a bit like Butch, but not quite.
But it's not quite. It's with a B with a chur, and with the extra letters in the middle. But
is it a slur to call a Duchess difficult? Is it a misogynistic slur? What do you think?
I don't think it's a slur when they've been difficult. She's been quite difficult, and I think it alliterates as well.
Yes, it does. Absolutely.
I think the B word doth protest too much, personally. But it's true that women do tend to get called by that word because of the way they behave. But there's something... What is keying into is something that the feminism did a while ago, which I think is really clever, is they got rid of the word nag, so you couldn't... And we were really nagged not to use the word nag, which was quite a great catch.
Do you remember they tried to ban the word bossy?
Yeah.
Remember that campaign?
Well, what do we do about it? Don't say bossy.
Don't you dare say bossy.
You just calm down your tone a bit.
They're trying to ban any criticism. Any criticism of a woman is now seen as gaslighting.
Yeah.
So if you say, you're being crazy because you're keying my car or whatever, they can be like, you're gaslighting me. It's like, no, you genuinely are crazy sometimes.
OK, well, I'll put a stop to this period of misogyny in the show. We're going to Wednesday's Guardian. You want to talk about your feelings, Leo?
Well, no, not really. But according to this article in The Guardian, boys need to talk more about feelings and also fight inequality. I don't know what that's got to do with talking about your feelings.
Well, it's in The Guardian.
But it's the Global Boyhood Initiative aims to enable adults to raise boys to become men who embrace healthy masculinity. Sounds more like the Global Soyhood Initiative. Am I right? So, I don't know, this thing about, trying to get men to talk about their feelings and splurge and, be emotionally incontinent just like women. It's, I don't know, like...
Leo, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that?
People say, men need to do it, we need to open up, because there's such a high suicide rate. But the suicide rate has only gone up since we've been encouraged to talk about our feelings. I think some men work better if we just suppress our feelings. And in fact, there's studies that have been done.
We're talking about boys, though. We're talking about kids. I mean, isn't it better to say to a little boy, not to say to a little boy who's crying, oh, man up, you shouldn't be crying? That's not helpful, is it, Kerry?
I'd ask you, as someone who's worked as a teacher, whether you think, because the teaching methods all changed to do this for quite a long time, to take out competitiveness and so on.
Yes.
And boys are doing worse and worse in schools as a result.
They are.
Yeah. So I think some of this, it makes sense because they're talking about making boys more aware of sexual harassment and gender-based violence, but then it's thrown in with making them more aware of the gender pay gap and a whole lot of express your feelings and be more, be a girl.
And also, all these guys, whenever you get these guys like, male feminists, because you do get some men who describe themselves as that, it's always just a cloaking device that they use to get closer to women so they can...
That has happened a surprisingly number of times, hasn't it? But I mean, I'm torn on that because on the one hand, I think boys who are, not typically masculine or something shouldn't be punished for not being so. And if they are boys who cry, then why pressure them? But on the other hand, as Christina Hoff-Sommers writes about the boys, that in a sense, boys are being punished for behaving like boys, not behaving like girls, for being more into rough and tumble play and that kind of thing. Yeah. And that's not good for them either.
But surely bad behaviour is a very different thing from toxic masculinity, which is, once again, getting into an ideology rather than an actual behaviour. And look, in my day, we learned to swim by throwing little kids into the pool.
Yeah.
So that's the right way to do it.
Worked half the time.
Totally, I got better watching them trying to survive.
We haven't got much time. We're going to have a look at Wednesday's Metro next. And this is a virtual reality immersion on a whole new level, Kerry. You know about this one? The Oculus creator.
Oh, we're going to the Oculus.
We are building a VR headset that intentionally kills you.
I thought this was an April Fool's story.
It doesn't sound real, does it? So this is apparently this guy. This
it's amazing.
Palmer Luckey. His name's Palmer Luckey.
Palmer Luckey, he's designed a virtual reality game that will kill you.
so if you die in the game...
If you die in the game, you actually die. He's improving his technique.
That's like the Matrix.
Yes.
But that's really scary, and isn't this just a murder weapon?
Well, he says he hasn't finished working on it yet, but he's figured out the bit that kills you.
Yeah,
because he's a psychopath.
I can't imagine this. I mean, you're not going to get many repeat sales with this, are you?
He says it's to enhance the jeopardy of the computer game.
Yeah.
If you knew that you would actually die when you die in the game, then that does raise the stakes, to be fair.
Then you might as well, instead of playing Call of Duty, you might as well just go to Ukraine and sign up.
Maybe that's what he's trying to do.
I've totally changed my mind about toxic masculinity now.
It's a very strange idea, this. I don't like it at all. But it's like the Matrix, isn't it? Because in the Matrix, when you die in the Matrix, you actually die.
Yeah.
He's just borrowing that. But you're right, it does sound like an April Fool's joke. Anyway, on that bizarre story, that is all we have got time for. But thank you to my guests, Leo Kearse and Kerry Marks. I'm going to be back with Headliners tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Up next is the Farage replay. Or if you're watching Headliners in the morning, it's Breakfast with Isabel and Ellie.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
We are GB News.
And we'd like to say thank you
to each and every one of you
for helping our great nation
find its voice.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Across England, Scotland,
Wales and Northern Ireland.
On TV,
on radio
and online. We're proud to be
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes and Kerr.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
On the Mark Steyn Show, we cover the stories a lot of people are scared even to mention. The stuff that really matters with some of the world's biggest thinkers.
Now is his opportunity to kind of take the steering wheel of history.
Break away from the flock at 8 o'clock on GB News with the Mark Steyn Show.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Good evening. We're live from Arizona this evening, one of the key states in today's midterms. Perhaps if Carrie Lake wins here and becomes governor, she could even become Donald Trump's vice president running mate. That's my opinion, one of the reasons that GB News is here. But Rishi Sunak has struck a big deal with America. We're going to be buying billions of cubic meters of liquefied natural gas from the USA. My audience question tonight, is Rishi getting this right? All of that in just a moment after the news.
Thanks, Nigel. I'm Ray Addison in the GB Newsroom. MPs have voted in favour of Labour's motion to maintain the state pension triple lock. The non-binding vote was passed by 218 to 0. It comes amid reports that the Prime Minister is looking to raise state pensions and benefits in line with inflation. Rishi Sunak and Chancellor Jeremy Hunt are also considering imposing up to £60 billion in tax rises and spending cuts in next week's autumn budget. Downing Street has described the latest bullying allegations against Sir Gavin Williamson as serious. It follows a report in The Guardian that Sir Gavin told a senior civil servant to slit your throat while he was Defence Secretary. It also claims that on another occasion he told them to jump out of the window. Scrutiny is mounting on the PM after it emerged he appointed the minister to his cabinet despite being aware of a previous allegation. Sir Gavin denies bullying. A coroner says he's seen no evidence that Archie Battersby was taking part in an online blackout challenge. The 12-year-old had his life support withdrawn in August after his parents failed to overturn a High Court ruling allowing doctors to lawfully do so. The senior coroner presiding over a pre-inquest review says his phone contained messages reflecting a very low mood. Donald Trump has cast his vote in Florida as Americans across the country head to the polls in the midterm elections. The former US president left the polling station accompanied by his wife Melania and the cheers of supporters. Currently, the Democrats control both the House of Representatives and the Senate. President Biden is warning that a Republican victory could weaken the country's democracy. Donald Trump told reporters, hopefully the right thing happens. Back here, the RMT union says strikes on London's underground service will go ahead. It's after last-minute talks failed to resolve a dispute over pay, jobs and conditions. Union officials say Transport for London has refused its offer to suspend strike action in exchange for a pause to job cuts. Well, meanwhile, more than 70,000 university lecturers and staff will walk out for 3 days later on this month. The University and College Union says staff at over 150 universities will stop work over pay conditions and pensions. The strikes will take place on November 24th, 25th and the 30th. They could impact 2.5 million students. Extinction Rebellion co-founder Roger Hallam has been remanded in custody for almost a month. He was arrested along with 7 other people accused of planning to join the Just Stop Oil protests on the M25. They've been charged with conspiracy to cause a public nuisance. Activists have disrupted traffic on England's busiest motorway for the past 2 days. 16 protesters were arrested today and 22 charged for actions yesterday. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News, the People's Channel. Time now for Farage.
Good evening. Well, I'll be talking a lot today about the midterms that are taking place in the US here today, and I'll feature particularly on Arizona. But before I get to that, an announcement overnight that a deal has been done. We don't know the exact details of a scale, but a deal has been done between Rishi Sunak and the Biden administration. We are going to be buying billions of litres of liquid natural gas. Now, that's really rather important because our over-reliance on wind energy means that if this coming February the wind doesn't blow, and the national grid have already warned us, we could face blackouts between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. every day, and that could last for weeks. It is an extraordinary, some would say intolerable position for our country to be in, but that's where we are. So Rishi Sunak has done this deal, and I want to ask you, is Rishi getting this right? Give me your thoughts, farage@gbnews.uk. I'm going to give him 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 because, yes, at least he's done something that will ensure, if the volumes are big enough, that the lights don't go out. Although as yet, we don't know how much of it might get shipped to Germany.